Hi, it's Dr. Bob. I am here in Hot Springs, South Dakota at the Mammoth site. This is a site that in 1974, as they were excavating to put in a housing development, they found a number of mammoth bones, and on further exploration in 1976, they found a skull and realized that this was a significant site. And so they began excavating. The decision was made to leave these bones in situ, so that we're able to see them specifically as they were located within the sediments. It's a great example of what happens when we assume the uniformitarian ideas as far as how these sediments were formed, because if you look over here, you'll notice that they have marked 140,000 years and 190,000 years, because they're basing that on sediment deposition, one, and their idea is that sediments are laid down gradually over time rather than being from catastrophic events. And secondly, because of the fossils that are found, because they initially thought, after carbon-14 dating, that these were only about 26,000 years old. But on further investigation, is the way that it's put, they determined that these fossils actually are 140, 190,000 years old. That's based on the fact that they're mammoths, and that they said that the mammoths couldn't exist and couldn't have been in sediments at that age. And so there's a great conflict in the different types of dating methods that are used here. In addition, these are what's called Columbian mammoths, which grow to a significantly greater height than what you would see with woolly mammoths in Europe. So these were a particular adaptation for this climate. The assumption is that there was a great sinkhole, and that these mammoths fell down in the sinkhole, and then sediments accumulated on top of them, which again doesn't fit any known process that we observe today, and not to mention the fact that some of the bones are disarticulated and found scattered, while others are found largely intact. So it's and there are definite signs of there being depressions and modifications of the sediments, possibly by mammoths walking on the sediments as they were forming, which again doesn't fit the idea of a sinkhole. If these animals were falling into the hole, how do we now find the remains of footprints of other animals, which are supposedly separated by 50,000 years? So it seems to be more an indication of a catastrophic event late in the global flood, possibly as a result of ice age flooding that occurs as the ice age is retreating and the waters are melting, and we have this new flooding, but looks to be late flood. So these animals would have been trying to get to higher ground, would have been subsequently buried, and these deposits laid rather rapidly rather than over a period of 50, 60,000 years. To have animals in the different conditions in sediment layers that are separated by tens of feet, again doesn't fit the uniformitarian ideas, but it's a great opportunity for us to look at what these assumptions mean and how data is interpreted, because initially, as I said, they thought they were 26,000 years old because carbon-14 dating said that they were. But in applying their existing mainstream models for how animals arrived here, because now they're assuming that these migrated as Asian mammoths and then adapted to this environment, becoming the animals that were then buried in these sediments and now become extinct. And so they've had to adjust based on what the current mainstream thinking is and what the peer review science says should have happened, and try to fit the pieces that you observe here into that model. So it's a great opportunity for us to look at the evidence of late in the flood, the destruction that continued to occur, and even immediately after, as the flood waters retreated, the ice age came, and then we have the catastrophic events that happen as the ice age begins to end, as the oceans get back to a normal temperature and the ice begins to melt. We see the inland seas being formed and overtopping and creating these great post-flood events that also cause catastrophic destruction of ecosystems and the animals within them. So it's a great place to come and observe what happens when we make these kind of assumptions without considering the truth of the historical record contained within the Bible and the events that are there. One more evidence that it's okay to believe. We don't have to bend the facts to fit our preconceptions. And this is Dr. Bob from the Mammoth site in Hot Springs, South Dakota.